And we are back again, Jared.
Yeah.
260. Talking about college sports today. And
talking about living in trailers.
Right? Well, talking about all sorts of crazy things before we started this episode, that's for sure.
Yeah. By the way, is this... Oh, no, I was thinking, does this come out after Christmas? But Christmas is on
Friday.
On Friday. Not next Friday. This Friday.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Right around the corner. You know, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, depending on...
Do you listen to Christmas music?
This year I haven't really. I've learned a couple songs on guitar. I learned how to play Feliz Navidad because I was just curious how to play it. It's actually
do you know how
pretty
to sing
easy.
It?
I horribly attempt to sing it, yeah.
Okay. But you know, excuse me, I guess I should say, do you know the words?
Oh, of course. Okay. I've heard that song probably a million times if we're being honest.
I don't know, like Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad.
Prospero año y felicidad.
Oh, okay. I know. I just always mumble that part.
Okay. That's kind of like when Despacito was really popular and people were like, Despacito. Oh, man. That's funny.
Yeah. I never
You don't strike me as the Christmas music kind of guy.
Wow.
Is that a fair statement or no?
I'm sick of the yeah, it's a fair statement. Fine.
Okay.
I'm sick of just the same Christmas songs over and I like the Mariah Carey Christmas album as much as the next person, but I'm kind of sick of it. I'm sick of chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Oh, that's a good one. It's a classic, Jared.
I don't have a problem with that. I've just heard it so many times.
So you're saying we need some new Christmas music.
Every now and again, I do hear a new Christmas song, and I'm like, I kind of like this. And I'm like, oh, this is a Christmas song. I'm even sick of Christmas in a Hollis by Run DMC. But like every now and again, I hear a new Christmas song, and I'm like, oh, I like this. But then like I don't know, like I don't know what it's called or anything, and it passes by, and I'm like, what was that song I heard?
And then you resort back to the classics because you can't remember the name.
Yeah, exactly. Then I just listen to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for 18th time. I watched Elf yesterday.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
I will say this. I'm not a huge Christmas music fan. No, I'm not. It's not that I'm not a fan of it. I'm just kind of sick of it, as I said. So if I hear something new, I can get into it. But I do like the Christmas movies, and so we watched Elf yesterday. That's a classic.
Oh, for sure.
And it's something that it's just so funny that it's just like the lack of the Christmas spirit meter is so funny to me, or whatever it is that Santa just runs on Christmas spirit, and then just this. I still struggle with cheesy because just the singing, I couldn't get over some of the when they just all were singing in New York on the street. I'm like, I feel like this wouldn't happen.
That's the beauty of Hollywood.
And and I was talking, and now as an adult, I was talking to my partner. I'm like, why is it that because you know the general plot. This Will Ferrell is the elf, and it turns out that he's a human that ended up on the North Pole and worked with the elves forever, but he wanted to meet his real dad, who's a human that lives in New York.
He's a businessman,
and he's a businessman. He's on the naughty list because he's a hard getting businessman. He doesn't care about anyone except for getting business done, and so Elf comes into his life, and it's supposed to highlight that this guy is an asshole, but I'm like, this guy's response is totally rational to this essentially stranger coming in and ruining his home, interrupting meetings at work,
being incredibly distraction. He's a huge distraction.
I was like, how is this guy the mean one and the bad person for being like, can you not?
Well, Jared, I think we have some legitimate proof here. You welcome to adulthood, my man. You have become an adult.
I was like, this guy is the only one here with a rational. Like, I was like, these people are crazy for putting up with this. I was like, this guy's the only one with a rational response.
Yeah, can you imagine someone just comes into your house one day,
cutting up furniture,
and also full grown, which means they're going to probably have a huge appetite. I was like, this guy's, what, 38?
Right. Like, how old is this guy?
Right.
How old is he supposed to be? Because that's another thing Sydney and I were talking about. I was like, how are we just accepting this full-grown adult coming into someone's life doing this?
But what's the opposite? I mean, imagine you live in the North Pole with elves your whole life. You have no life skills.
But that's what. But what we were saying is that the elves aren't don't act childish. The elves
That's
grow up
true.
like normal adults. All the other elves functioned like normal adults.
So it's just Buddy's problem, which is Will Ferrell's character. Is what you're saying.
So it's like, what is it about him? How did he somehow not develop? And he's a full-grown adult that's acting like this. I don't. Now I'm starting not to understand the plot of the movie anymore.
I think you're digging too deep into it. It's just supposed to be a Christmas movie to give you those Christmas feels.
I need like a Quentin Tarantino Christmas movie that I'm thinking about for weeks.
The Hateful Eight wasn't a Christmas movie, you don't think?
Oh, I never saw that.
They were in a cabin. They were nice and cozy, locked up in a cabin during wintertime.
I'm gonna watch that. I think it's on Netflix.
It's an interesting one. It's a little slow. At least the start of it. That's all I'll say. I don't want to ruin it for you. It's funny you mention Christmas movies though, Jared, because I was fortunate enough to give a presentation the other day with the Fulbright Commission in the Czech Republic.
Wow.
And we talked about holidays. And the interesting thing is that one of these students asked me, what is my favorite Christmas movie? And what do you think my knee-jerk reaction was? What do you think the one...
Oh, I know. Die Hard.
No. Actually, I've only seen Die Hard maybe 2 or 3 times, actually.
I've seen Die Hard a lot.
It's on all the time.
I've seen that movie a lot. No, I figured you'd say Die Hard just to be like the contrarian and make everyone be like, well, what do you mean, you know?
That's not a Christmas movie.
But that just the argument of whether or not that is a Christmas movie is an American phenomena, like Christmas phenomena in itself. And, anyway, your favorite Christmas movie, is it Elf? No, Grinch.
Very good. Which one, though? You got to specify now.
The Grinch with Jim Carrey, I imagine. Because that's the one we grew up with.
Yep. Yeah.
There's a newer one?
Yeah, there's an animated one with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, is he British?
No.
Because Benedict Cumberbatch is British, but he's done American roles, too.
Sure. I only watched a little bit of it.
Okay.
I wasn't.
You're not into it?
I mean, well, I just like when you get used to seeing The Grinch not as an animated movie and then you watch it again as an animated movie.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
It can be hard to make that jump to animated because it is like just a very different, and it can work sometimes, I guess, but it's just a very different vibe.
And if you're going to watch the animated Grinch, I think you have to watch the original one from like the 60s or 70s, whenever that was. That one's really good.
Yeah. Is that when that's from?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
Jim
think Dr.
Carrey
Seuss actually did the animation for it.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, but yeah, Jim Carrey in himself is just such a character.
Oh, for sure.
And that he does. I mean, he kills it. I get that.
He really does. Yeah, he really does. Well, Jared, I have a little something that I want to talk to you about for today's top of the show.
Okay.
It's a little controversial, and actually by now it might even be quote unquote old news. But I think it's a little apropos to our topic, at least tangentially, in the regard that it's related to college.
Yes.
And we are talking about the phenomenon of college sports this episode. And I'm sure you've heard about this, the op-ed that had urged Dr. Jill Biden to drop the doctor in her title. For our listeners who aren't in the U.S., Dr. Jill Biden is the first lady of the president-elect, Joe Biden.
Oh, you don't call her the first lady-elect?
I don't
know.
Well, they confirmed the Electoral College vote, so isn't he the president? Or is he still
not
the president-elect?
Donald
You're
Trump's
right,
the
he has to be
president until he
sworn
gets
in.
inaugurated.
Right,
Inauguration is when you become the president.
Right.
So he's still the elect.
Exactly. Good old U.S. politics here. Anyway, so there was an op-ed written, I forget I have it up here. Was it Wall Street Journal? Op-ed titled, "Is there a doctor in the White House? Not if you need an MD." This was a Wall Street Journal opinion.
I believe you could say the shade there.
Honestly, man, I don't even think this is. I mean, I get it's supposed to be shade, but I just think this is so ridiculous on so many levels. So, first of all, and then the subheading for this is Jill Biden should think about dropping the honorific. Which feels fraudulent, even comic. First of all, I'm not even going to address this guy by his last name because I don't think he deserves it. First of all, Joseph. The first thing I need to tell you is there's nothing fraudulent about calling yourself a doctor. There's nothing fraudulent about that. If you have worked your ass off for a PhD. If you're a PhD in EDD, MD, PharmD, I don't care what it is, they all have earned those honorary titles. Now, if you buy your degree, that's a little different, but I don't think people are buying their doctorates.
Bill Cosby and you get like an honorary degree from Temple. That's a bad example of a person, but you know what I mean? Like you got an honorary doctorate, but it's like just because we like you and you give us a lot of money, really.
Right. So anyway, so there was this op-ed in the Wall Street Journal basically telling the First Lady elect, Madam First Lady is the way this guy starts. Okay, first of all, the level of just, I don't know, can you say condescendence? I mean, it's condescending, right? Just how condescending this article is. From the first sentence, here we go. Madame First Lady, Mrs. Biden, Jill, kiddo. A bit of advice on what may seem like a small, but I think is not an First of all, this is terrible writing, bro. I think it is a not unimportant matter. Why don't you just say it's an important matter?
Yeah, that's a double negative. Well, this is the Wall Street Journal. I mean, it's an opinion section, but still.
Yeah. So anyway,
kiddo. There's a lot of talk about kiddo, and I didn't read this article, but I knew that I realized that there's a lot of talk about can she use doctor or should she be using doctor, and people calling her kiddo, and that's where that comes from.
Well, the kiddo is unwarranted and egregious and just ridiculous.
I mean, that's just just full on like a patronizing.
Right, and this Joseph dude is the reason why so many people out there are complaining about a lot of dudes with their fragile masculinity and toxic masculinity. This dude is the one that gives a lot of the other guys out there who respect women, who respect titles, who, you know what I mean? I work with a lot of amazing, incredibly intelligent and hardworking women. And I mean, we're on a first name basis, but if they wanted me to call them doctor, I for sure would, and I wouldn't even think about it, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't get why this dude literally took time out of his day to write. I mean, first of all, kudos to him, I guess, because he knew this was going to get clicks. He knew this was going to be controversial. I don't know if he's got canceled or not, and I'm not saying he necessarily needs to be canceled, quote unquote, but I think, like, just what is going on in this dude's head to even write this, man? Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Do you not have better things to do in your life than put someone down who, you know?
Like, is this journalism?
Right. Well, it's not. It's opinion, clearly.
Well, yeah, sure. But it's
just
like
so ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't understand why this is why it bothers him. Well, why would it bother you this much to the point where you feel like you need to write a piece about this? Honestly, it kind of makes me side-eye the Wall Street Journal in general as well, because it's like, what, like, someone edited this, obviously, and it's like, how did you find this to be like, oh yeah, no, this is a good conversation. This is a conversation that needs to be had.
Right.
We're having the hard conversations here. Can
I read more of this though?
Sure.
Can we hash this out a little bit, because this is so ridiculous on so many levels. Okay. So anyway, so we read the first sentence. We don't need to go back here. Any chance you might drop the doctor before your name? Dr. Jill Biden sounds and feels, once again, he's saying it feels fraudulent. It's not fraudulent. She earned her doctorate. There is nothing fraudulent about calling yourself a doctor when you have earned a doctorate. If she was ABD
what's her doctorate
status,
in? Is education?
Education,
right?
Education. You know, but so if you're ABD, which means basically you've done all your coursework, but you're still writing your dissertation, then you are not a doctor. You're ABD. I mean, that's what they call it in academia, right? So for our listeners out there who aren't familiar with some of these academic terms, that is, and I thought it was like anything but dissertation. I don't know if that's actually the formal term.
I thought that was an insult of some sort.
Right. Maybe it is. Look at this non-doctor over here. But anyway, so here we go. So, okay, Dr. Jill Biden sounds, and I'm reading from this article, people, these are not my words. Dr. Jill Biden sounds and feels fraudulent, not to say a touch comic. Why is it comical, bro? Like, I'm not saying bro to you, I'm saying to this guy. Like, why? What is comical about it? You know, why? She's a professor.
She went through the normal process that everyone goes through.
And this is the kicker, though, Jared. So then he says, your degree is, I believe, in EDD, which is Doctor of Education. earned at University of Delaware through a dissertation. This guy, man, he is throwing out all these evaluative things about Jill Biden when he'll try to qualify himself in a moment here, Jared, but this is just such a ridiculous article on so many levels. Anyways.
Doesn't her degree say doctor on it?
Yeah, Doctor of Education.
Yeah.
EDD, Doctor of Education, earned at the University of Delaware through a dissertation. Once again, people, I'm reading this. These are not my words. With the unpromising title, Student Retention at the Community College Level, Meeting Students' Needs. First of all, why are you giving a dig on her dissertation?
Can I ask this? Who is allowed to be called a doctor? Because he says MD, right?
That's the headline, exactly.
So like a dentist is not a doctor?
That's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or like an orthodontist.
A veterinarian?
Yeah.
I mean, are they not a doctor? Anyways,
That's such
these
a
are
weird,
very valid questions, Jared.
how, if he's deciding who is and isn't a doctor in spite of what their title says they are.
Yes, let's continue, Jared.
Okay.
Let's
I just want to
continue.
know who he. Because I just want to know. Yeah, keep going.
We'll get there. We'll get there. A wise, this guy's so ridiculous on so many levels. A wise man once said that no one should call himself doctor unless he has delivered a child. Think about it, Dr. Jill, and
very
forthwith
narrow-minded.
drop the doctor. First
So
of
only
all,
gynecologists are doctors,
right? So first of all, Joe or Joseph. First of all, the first issue here is that. Not all medical doctors have delivered children. Second of all,
I would say probably most haven't.
On a literal sense, all women deliver children. They
Right.
birth the children. Does
Also-
that qualify them to be a doctor? I mean,
Also,
this
there
guy's
are children
logic
that
is
haven't
ridiculous.
been birthed by doctors.
Yep.
Or you're now a doctor.
You're a doctor, right? Yeah. Who needs to go to school? Who needs standards? You just you help me birth my
You
child.
did it in
you're
your
a doctor.
bathtub? Yeah,
Right.
okay, you're a doctor now.
Exactly. So now, Jared, this Joseph dude is going to qualify himself. Here we go. I taught at Northwestern University for 30 years. By the way, since this article is dropped, of course, Northwestern has distanced themselves from him, and so that's also not a good sign here. So, anyways, I taught at Northwestern.
I mean, just because he's an asshole doesn't take away from the fact that he can that he actually did get a degree from somewhere.
Here's the kicker. Here's the kicker, Jared. Let me just
But obviously,
read this.
Northwestern's not going to defend the guy.
Right. Here we go. I taught at Northwestern University for 30 years without a doctorate or any advanced degree. So, dude, your first entire paragraph talks
I
about.
thought he was about to say he's been a medical
He's
doctor,
a PhD and and professor emeritus and all that. No, the dude doesn't have his doctorate, and he's ragging on her for having a doctor of education and calling herself the proper professionally recognized title. This to me just
is he sort of implying that like it's elitist to say you're a doctor because I've done just as much, if not more, than you without a doctorate?
That might be
and it's like you think you're better than me because you have a doctorate, and it's like no one said that. That's just,
exactly
you're really showing yourself. You're showing yourself here.
Well, I think a lot of this is projecting.
It's so
really
sad too. Why is this so much about? I don't know. I mean, it's an opinion piece, but it's just like it's I don't know. It's just like.
And let me also ask this, and I think this is always
kind of sad to me.
It's very sad.
It's turning more
it's
pathetic.
Sad and insecure and pathetic. You're right. It's sad, insecure, and pathetic. So here's the other thing too with this entire conundrum with like Dr. Jill Biden and this guy saying that she shouldn't call herself doctor. She should drop the title and just be Miss First Lady Biden or Madame First Lady Mrs. Jill Biden or whatever. Which I don't think it really matters that much anyways. Like if you said Madame First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, that doesn't change that much versus Mrs. Biden.
Right.
I mean,
there are so many people. It's not. She's not like an anomaly.
Cares?
She's not even an anomaly as someone that does this.
Right.
Like,
and here's my second question. What if someone who was running for president had an EDD or a PhD? It probably won't happen because you know how our country is with education. But what I really mean here is that if the roles were reversed, if it was the dude, Dr. President Biden, Dr. President Obama, I don't think people would ask them to drop the title. Maybe they would. I don't know. I just find it ridiculous.
Well, I bet you. I could imagine. there's clearly some insecurity going on here.
Yep.
I imagine there's some level of sexism going on here, I could certainly imagine a world where if it wasn't a medical doctor or like a I don't know, dentist or something like that, and if it was like a doctor of education, let's say, and like Obama had a doctor of education, I could or if even Trump did, which sounds hilarious to even think, but I could imagine people of the other side being like, this person is calling himself a doctor as like an insult,
right?
But
speaking of the insecurity, can I read a little bit further here, Jared?
Sure.
So then our good old buddy Joe here decides to go on to say that
I call him kiddo, but okay.
Right. I do have an honorary doctorate, though. I have to report that the president of the school that awarded it was fired the year after I received it. Not, I hope, for allowing my honorary doctorate. During my years as a university teacher,
he just discredited his own honor.
Yep. And here he says, as a university teacher, note he says teacher and not professor, because actually,
he can't
really,
call
if you
himself a professor,
exactly. I was sometimes addressed, usually on the phone, as Dr. I'm not going to say this dude's last name. If you want to read the article, you can check it out on the Wall Street Journal. I just don't think it's worth the time to even give this guy much more clout. But I do think this is important to talk about because it's just so ridiculous. It's just, that's why, really.
So what happens when
ridiculous.
People would call him doctor? I'm on the edge of my seat.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. So on the phone as Dr. Blank, on such occasion, it was all I could do not to reply. Read 2 chapters of Henry James and get into bed. I'll be right over.
What does that mean?
I'm assuming that means, was someone calling him as a booty call?
So he's saying when someone, so what was he trying? He was trying to imply something. When someone would call him doctor, how would he respond to that? He wouldn't like it. Is that what he's saying? He doesn't like it when people would call him doctor.
I guess.
But he wouldn't correct them.
Right.
He just didn't like it.
Right. I was also often addressed as doctor during the years I was editor of the American Scholar, the quarterly magazine of Phi Beta Kappa. Let me quickly insert that I am all...
The quarterly magazine of a fraternity?
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
Well, editor of the American Scholar, quarterly... Yeah, okay. Anyways, let me quickly insert that I am not a member of... not a member of Phi Beta Kappa except by marriage. This dude is just all over the place, man. Like, I just... And then he also argues
what does any of this have to do with her, by the way?
Right. And then he argues...
He's just telling us about his sad resume.
Well, and I like how he's trying to flex by saying, I taught at Northwestern for this long, I have an honorary doctorate. And it's like, dude, no one cares.
Oh, Phi Beta Kappa is an honor society. He's trying to flex, but he's then also like sort of discrediting himself at the same time.
And the irony is his only association through this honorary fraternity is through marriage.
Right.
So
he's like, I wrote for this honorary society. Let me tell you, by the way, I wasn't a member, just to be clear.
Right. And let me tell you, I got an honorary degree, but the guy who gave it to me was fired a year later. Hopefully not related to him giving me that honorary degree.
I got called doctor a few times, and I hated it.
Right? Oh, man. And then
I only have a master's, by the way.
And then he also argues right here, Jared, the PhD may have once held prestige, but that has been diminished by the erosion of seriousness and the relaxation of standards in university and education generally.
So he's deciding that now that PhDs are you're no longer allowed to call yourself a doctor. He said in the past you could, but you are no longer allowed to call yourself a doctor with a PhD is what he's decided.
I don't know if I would take it that far. I think what I would just take it at face value here, which
say it again.
PhD. The PhD may once have held prestige, meaning in the past it was viewed as this very prestigious, honorable, noble degree.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and now it's not.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you are right about that, Jared.
But it's like who's decided? I mean, I'm not in the academic. Is that? Have you ever heard that? I'm sure it used to be more.
Well, I think in terms of value, it might have been better.
When college was rarer.
Exactly.
And the idea of education was more of like a class thing, probably.
Right. And I will say this. If to any listener out there who just thinks they'll be able to get a PhD and get a cushy professor job I wish you good luck. Really. I mean, very, very good luck, because I can tell you, unless you're in a very specialized field, a lot of schools, I mean, we would have to really look at the numbers actually, but from what my discussions, at least in the field of German studies, I can say is there are definitely a lot more PhDs being produced than there are positions available for said PhDs if you want to work as a traditional German professor. So what do? You have to look at other fields in academia and education where you could also work and use your skills. And that's what a smart PhD student would do. A silly one who is only focused, or if just your main goal is to be focused on the academic track, then it's definitely going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, in today's current job climate.
So in this opinion piece, what does op-ed stand for?
Opinion, I don't
editorial?
know. Oh, probably. Yeah.
Is there ever a point where he gets to who can be called a doctor? Because he's just going through his sad resume for a long time.
Let me see. I'm trying to take a quick look here. That's a great question, actually, Jared.
I mean, I don't know if I'm pitying this guy more and more as he talks, but it's just like, I don't understand why you're deciding.
Right. Okay.
Like all right, whatever.
No, he doesn't say. He goes on to argue about political correctness. He goes on to talk about how celebrities are people who
give
talks at commencement speeches.
I'm sure there. I'm sure there are like doctors. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there are like medical doctors that might roll their eyes at maybe people like this that do use doctor. I could imagine that. I could definitely see that in my head. But they're probably not writing papers about it in the Wall Street Journal.
Probably not.
And they're probably just making fun of it with their friends.
Oh, for sure.
But
let me end by reading the last little bit of this here, Jared, because that
thing looks like it's about to.
We're good. Okay, so let me read this last little bit, and then we can move on. So, as for your EDD, Madame First Lady, hard-earned though it may have been, please consider stowing it, at least in public, at least for now. Forget the small thrill of being Dr. Jill and settle for the larger thrill of living for the next 4 years in the best public housing in the world as First Lady Jill Biden. I mean, yeah.
I don't think the White House is the nicest house in America to live in.
Public housing.
Oh,
best public housing. I mean, obviously that's kind of ironic, satirical.
Yeah, of course.
But
this guy, no, I understand. He's being real clever,
right? This dude, though. I mean, Joseph, come on, man. What is the deal? What, like, did you not get enough respect from your students? Are you just sad you never actually got an EDD or a PhD?
That writing,
what's the deal?
Makes like. I don't know how how could he think that writing would make anyone just not hate him even more? Also, I don't know who this guy is, but this writing makes me hate him.
Also, I don't know if this is on him or on the Wall Street Journal, so take this as you will. But even just the very bottom here, where it gives a little bit of info on our good buddy Joe here, it says, Mr. Joe is author. First of all, you're missing Anne. As an English teacher, I can tell you, a lot of my students who have been speaking English a lot less than you have can get this correctly.
There are more and more typos in articles these days because they're online.
Oh, I believe it. Most recently, Gallimaufry, a collection of essays, reviews, and bits. And yeah, so this guy is just, I just don't get it. Like,
yeah,
it's.
Yeah, yeah.
The funny thing is,
she earned her doctorate, and I don't know why anyone would care this much to write this.
Right. Well,
I mean, does he just do like a column every week, and he had nothing else to talk about?
I haven't read any of his other writings, to be fair. But the funny thing is it would be one thing if he wanted to argue like tradition or something. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying. There's really no logical argument here. Like, I get it's an opinion piece.
It's like, but she got, but then he's also like using the argument that like it used to be more respected, and it's like
then
But
maybe
even if
that's why she should continue to call herself
whether
doctor,
that's
so
true-
it brings some more light and
Whether
respect.
it's true or not doesn't take away from the fact that she, went through the process to get the doctorate. It's like, so how now you're deciding that because socially, doctorates aren't really, doctorates that aren't medical doctorates aren't really respected that much in society. You shouldn't call yourself that. That's such his argument makes no sense to me.
Well, and then the funny thing is too is he argues about the issue with standards, but it's like, well, dude, the whole point of having a standard is if you earn that title, you call someone by that title. That is the standard.
And then my confusion also is, why are you the comparison? Like, you're like, he's using himself as like the bar or something.
As someone who got an honorary doctorate from a school where the guy who gave it to him was fired that
and
next
it's like,
year.
why are you just listing your credentials that technically are all lower than her real doctorate?
Right, exactly.
It's such a weird flex that you're trying to put like,
and it's sad. Honestly.
I did all these things that are not as much as achieving a doctorate. Mm-hmm. And this is why she shouldn't be calling herself a doctor. Right. And it's like, I don't understand that connection, sir. And so for that I say no, sir.
Yeah, it's just so ridiculous, man.
Yeah,
so ridiculous.
I agree. It was pathetic. It was really pathetic. So I have a shout out, by the way, if you want. But go ahead.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say. This is. I'm glad you have a shout out, but let me just say, I want to give this guy just 2 straight up thumbs down. Just 2 straight up 2 thumbs down. Joe, I don't know what you're doing, man, but
here we'll give him 2. Shoot, I haven't used this in a long time.
Do you have the shotgun?
No. We're not going to shoot him. I haven't used this in a long time, so I don't remember exactly which button it is. But I'm going to give you 2. Wah, wah. There we go.
There we go. Perfect.
Wah, wah.
What shout out do you have for us today, Jared?
Oh, yeah. Spread a little love. I'm going to spread love to a billionaire philanthropist that is using her money for good.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Why are you smiling so much?
Because I know who you're going to talk about.
Mackenzie Scott, have you heard of her?
I have. I think she used to have a different last name, didn't she?
The author, yeah, and philanthropist, full-on rapist. Have you seen Always Sunny?
Yeah,
I'm a full-on rapist. A what? Author and philanthropist says she has given away more than $4 billion in the last 4 months.
This is Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
This pandemic has been a wrecking ball in the lives of Americans already struggling, Scott wrote in a post on Medium, announcing the donations. Economic losses and health outcomes alike have been worse for women, for people of color, and for people living in poverty. Meanwhile, it has substantially increased the wealth of billionaires, like myself. She didn't say that last part. Scott is the ex-wife of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. She was part of the company's founding and Amazon's first accountant.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So she's not.
So we need to give her some more credit.
Yeah,
that's fair. We need to give her some more credit
in the beginning stages and helped.
I was not aware of that. Okay.
So, according to Forbes, Scott is the 3rd richest woman in the world, estimating her worth at $55.1 billion after her most recent donations. It is very unfair that people just say, just because she's the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, she's now, super rich or whatever. Where it's like, she's actually had investment in this company from the beginning. And she actually worked for the company from the beginning.
Do you think that is an equal distribution of what?
Listen, Chad.
Anyways, continue. Sorry.
I don't have.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I'm not
here.
looking at the financial statements. I don't know. I mean,
you didn't do a deep dive on this one.
How much is Jeff Bezos doing in comparison to? He's not the only one just making this whole operation run by himself.
No, well, clearly not. It's way too big for that.
So, I don't know. I have no idea.
Right.
So, being the first accountant, she was Amazon's first accountant. Who, if she, I don't know how long she did that for. Maybe she started the accounting. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, who knows? Anyways.
In their divorce last year, Scott received a 4% stake in Amazon. then valued at $37 billion. 4% stake of Amazon is valued at $37 billion.
So how many billions is Amazon worth?
Does that go into trillions at that point?
Probably, right? And dude, the number trillion, I mean, even the number billion, it's so hard to imagine how big it is.
I know.
It's crazy.
And that's just 4%.
Right.
And that's like, here's the piece, because so I wonder how much percent he has, and because he doesn't have he doesn't have 96%.
Right. Well, if he had, so she's got 4%, and it was what, 37 billion?
Yeah.
So, well, if he had,
he probably has around. I'd imagine he has somewhere around, I don't know, 30 to 40%. I'd imagine.
What do you do?
I'm just guessing. Though.
What do you do in life when you have so much money that you could not spend it in your lifetime if you tried?
Well, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Amid stock and market pandemic boom, those shares, by the way, those $37 billion, I did say, including her, and I wasn't kidding, would now be worth about $62 billion, which is almost double.
Yep.
Though it's not clear how much of a fortune she has sold. Obviously, they don't have that much of a track on her finances, but she at least has got tens and tens of billions of dollars, it seems like. The gifts are to 384 organizations in all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. All are unrestricted gifts with no strings attached. The organizations which she lists in her post include those that fulfill basic needs such as food banks and emergency relief funds. Others target longer-term problems, she says, systemic inequities that have been deepened by the crisis, debt relief, employment training, and I'm getting a call. Sorry.
Mr. Popular over here.
And financial services for under-resourced communities, education for historically marginalized and underpreserved people, underserved people, civil rights advocacy groups, and legal defense funds that take on institutional discrimination. Just to name a few. There's even more, but I can't name everything. But,
that is great, though. Good on her for you know, she definitely has enough money to be very charitable with it, and you like to see it. You definitely do.
Yeah, and this is like substantial amounts of money too, but it's like over $1 billion even. I mean, and that's ridiculous to even say that. It's just like you have enough money to last lifetimes, and in the way that like when you have that level of money, when it grows, like it's growing by like millions.
Yeah.
Like when my little bank account, when I get an extra $3 at the end of the year in my savings account, that's about the same as Bezos getting an extra $1 billion.
Right. That is crazy.
Like, that's just the interest. And so at that point, it's like if you're not giving it away at levels like that. I mean,
what else are you going to do with it?
As we said in the episode about wealth, I can't really respect you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, what's the point of building that much wealth if you can't spread it around?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, cool, and that's what they say. That's what they say is the point of capitalism. Is and I feel like that's how capitalism really works. Is not just by the trickle down of
I don't think the trickle down works very well
of making jobs. Obviously, that's important, but it's like I think the trickle down is really just a big dump down, as I'm now calling it.
Right.
This is not a trickle down. This is a dump down.
That's a plop,
and we need to do more plops.
Yep, that's a solid plop. Well, yeah, shout out to Mrs. She goes by Mrs. Scott. Is that her?
Her name is Mackenzie Scott. I don't know.
Mackenzie Scott.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shout out to you, Mackenzie. That's awesome. Yeah, you definitely like to see it.
Dropping billies.
That's right. That's right. Oh, man. Must be nice. All right, Jared. Well, we are going to get into our untranslatables for today, which are idioms, proverbs, sayings, axioms in a foreign language that don't translate into English on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah.
And frankly, I guess I shouldn't even say in a foreign language because we've done some English untranslatable as well.
Sure.
I'll get us started today, Jared,
on gator piss.
with a Thai untranslatable. It is Rumai Ditod Pitod Glong.
So the language is called Thai? I mean, you say it, so I'll believe you.
Yep.
Okay.
In Thailand, what they speak in Thailand.
Okay, sure.
And the translation is those who can't dance, blame it on the flute and the drum.
Is that as literal as it sounds? Oh, those who can't, it's just like those who can't do something, blame it on the tools.
Very good. Hit that ham horn. Yeah. We would say a bad workman blames his tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
There's like a that's what they say in the car community where when someone's racing and then they like lose, it's like, oh no, I blew my turbo on that last run, man, that really slowed me down. I think I have an exhaust leak. It's like if my car was running top, I would have had you. So I've been getting into this Gujarati, which is a language I found recently. It's an Indian language. And my first untranslatable is Ank Michi Ne Gandhi Ne Jim. With eyes tightly closed and like a crazy person.
Like this?
With eyes tightly... Well, that's eyes tightly closed. Can you do the crazy person part? Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Is that the...
Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself.
Easier said than done, Jared. So with eyes shut, what was it again?
Tightly closed, and like a crazy person. Imagine that. Think about that.
Well, I think of this as like an oxymoron because I think like a crazy person, your eyes would be open and you'd have a crazy look in your eyes, right?
Well, think about if you're. Yeah, that's true. But think about if you're...
So I think a lot of the craziness comes from the eyes.
But could you argue someone could be doing something and the fact that their eyes are closed would make it a lot crazier?
I was thinking you close your eyes because you want to avoid seeing what's going on, maybe.
And why would you want to avoid something?
Because something bad's happening. Or you're scared. Or
I'd give you like a sad ham horn on that one.
Is it when you're scared of something?
It's doing something without any sort of research or like ignorantly and without thinking first.
Oh,
so it's just like it's essentially just like someone that is just running full force forward with their eyes closed.
I see.
And it's like I'm just doing this with no thought process at all, essentially.
Right.
And that's essentially what it is.
That's funny. I like that.
I like the imagery of it.
It is a good one.
I actually didn't think about your way of thinking about it. It made sense, obviously, just because when I first saw it, I saw the meaning as well. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. That would make sense, too.
Yeah, but it does make a lot of sense, like if your eyes are shut and then you're doing something, especially like you're doing something like a crazy person.
Yeah, or like what I pictured was actually someone like driving down the freeway with their foot slammed to the floor
with their eyes shut. Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
It's like I don't think this is a good idea.
Okay, my next one is also Thai for you, Jared. And it is Somlon, and it means orange drops.
Orange drops. Is that like someone's a sweetheart? You're my orange drop.
Not
Chad,
quite.
You're my little orange drop.
I like that, and we should make that a thing. But no, that's not what orange drops means.
It's very vague. I don't even know what an orange drop would be.
Well, just think about it. So you're chilling at the beach. You're sitting there.
Soaking up the sun. Getting those orange drops.
Not
tannin,
not soaking up the sun. Well, just think about it though. You're sitting on the beach.
A mimosa.
You didn't prepare. You didn't bring any treats or snacks with you. You're sitting there, and then an orange drops into your lap.
Oh, just like a special treat out of nowhere.
And if you get a special treat out of nowhere, you could say that you are
blessed. #blessed. This is an orange drop. It's a
blessed or
blessing in disguise.
How would a non-religious person say it?
Lucky.
There we go.
An orange drop is being lucky.
Yep.
Interesting.
To get lucky.
Why?
Well, here, let's see. This literally means an orange. Sorry, I guess that's my bad. An orange drops.
Still.
An orange drops, but as an expression.
An orange drops. Oh, that's different.
Yep. Well, but that's why I tried to use the beach analogy.
I see. Sure.
Or the beach example. But as an expression, it means that good fortune has unexpectedly come your way. It is the Thai translation of how lucky. It sounds a bit funny.
And orange drops right into your lap.
Yeah. As oranges are only lucky if it lands in your hands.
Yeah. You'd have to be. I feel like you're only lucky if it's like I'm just like, and I stretch and I just put my hand up and it's like, oh, an orange just fell into my hand.
If you got a full juicy orange hitting smacking you in the face, that would not be pleasant.
Or any part of your body.
That's true.
You're a gentleman's sausage, as they say on Top Gear.
Is that what they say?
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Top Gear recently. I'll give you another Gujarati one. They have like this double A situation, and I don't know if it's or
Right.
Double A Tara Bap Now Rasto Nati. This isn't your dad's road. I like any.
Oh, that's a good one. Interesting. This isn't.
This isn't. I guess I should actually say it. This isn't your dad's road.
So this isn't. So this isn't for you.
No.
No. It's none of your business.
It's actually think about it more literal. Literally, someone on the road is telling you this isn't your dad's road.
So you don't belong here.
No.
Get out of here, boy. This isn't your dad's road.
One time I was when I lived in Pennsylvania. When I was coming home from my piano lessons were in the suburbs of outside of Philadelphia, so I would purposely take the back roads. And I would enjoy the back roads because it was very quiet, and sometimes I would go a little fast, and maybe hypothetically there was one time that a guy ran out to his to the corner of his street, yelling, "This isn't your dad's road," and holding a rake, and like waving it in the air.
To you?
I said hypothetically.
Oh, okay. Well, wouldn't surprise me with some people, I guess. But so is it to be racist?
No, you didn't hear the part. No.
Well, I thought he was like trying to get off my lawn.
No. I said I was driving fast on these roads.
Oh,
and he sees me driving fast and yells, "This isn't your dad's road."
So just you shouldn't be.
That's what it is. But now that I just kind of told you, it's essentially stop driving like
stop driving like a maniac.
Yeah, that's why I was telling you. It's very literal, it's essentially saying your dad doesn't own this. Stop driving like
it's not his road. You can't.
Road. Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, that's a good one.
This isn't your dad's road.
Okay,
that did happen, by the way.
But
not because of racist reasons. For this reason,
because you were driving too fast.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me. That makes me a lot happier. It was because you were driving recklessly, Jared.
No, there wasn't any way he could have seen who I was.
Right. Well, you got those tinted windows too. Or was this back in the day when you didn't have? Anyways.
No, it was. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Stop asking so many damn questions.
Well, Jared, should we talk about college sports?
Sure, dude.
Let's do it. So I was hoping today we could talk about the kind of we did touch on it a few episodes back on school spirit, but I want to talk about some of the cultural implications of college sports in the U.S. Also kind of explore why do we even have college sports? Because we're really the only country that I know of in the world on a large scale. I couldn't find like any other countries that had like a NCAA, like a huge organization.
And it's a very like what's the word? Like it's a very controversial, not very, but it is sort of a controversial idea, even here in the United States, of college sports. And it's becoming more and more controversial, I think, as we progress a little bit in society as well. Just the idea of the power that college sports have, the structure of these, of how much administrators and coaches get paid versus the players getting paid nothing, anything. And obviously they make money off of them. And just the idea of the education being the important, they always tout it as the education is the important part. Yet
right.
they have specific classes set up. Like so, just the whole idea of what really is the priority here.
Which is interesting, though, and I'm very glad you mentioned this, Jared, because the other aspect, though, about college sports is that, you have all the support staff and students who are being trained in kinesiology or like sports medicine, sports therapy,
sports management.
Yeah. So it's what's interesting.
Looking at the players, like, ooh, yeah, let me befriend that guy.
Right. Let me be his agent in 2 or 3 years. Right. But the interesting thing is the U.S. is really the only place that I know of where you have that. Like you might have like, I don't know, University of Munich does some studies with something, but it's not the same.
The
like
sports
it's not
structure
intertwined.
In most of the rest of the world,
it's clubs.
But they're way more honest about it.
What do you mean?
Because like soccer, Formula One, those are the two sports I know the most about that aren't American sports. They recruit these people from like essentially childhood. So like they start in karting, and then they move up sort of through the ranks of bigger sort of, and it's like by the time they're in karting, a lot of these Formula One companies, essentially companies, race teams have already heard of some of the best kids, and they'll be like, well, let's keep an eye on this kid for when they move up to Formula 2 and 3 and all that stuff, and see how they progress, and maybe they have like. Some people maybe it's like we'll invest a little bit in their career, help them pay to get like a card because it's super expensive, or like we'll have like a junior like they have like soccer teams or Formula One teams. They have like junior like teams where you find like young stars and sort of like
the academy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they have like young driver programs and all that stuff. And so like they're way more honest about it. There's never any point where they're like, well, how much college have you had? There's no.
I don't think for pro sports in the U.S. that's not a question either. Like it's all just about the performance of the athlete. They don't care if you spent 2 years in college, if you spent 4 years in college.
But for a lot of sport, well, that's also the thing. Some of it goes back to slavery because it is like. The sports, how do they choose? Because it's weird also how they choose the sports where you have to go to college versus the ones you don't.
Oh,
because you have to go to college for football and basketball.
But you don't have to get a degree.
But you have to go to college.
Right.
You have to have had at least a year or two of college.
Right. But I think at least the argument for football is if you look at a high school football player when they graduate and you look at an NFL player, they need that year or 2 years to mature physically.
But why is it that if you look at hockey, baseball, golf, all these sports, you don't need to go to college to do these sports professionally. They have like the all those lower leagues that you can just go to straight from high school.
Well, I think with basketball now, you have the G League. I don't think you have to go to college to get in the NBA. I don't think that's true.
Is that?
I'm not sure though.
Okay, well, it's still the main way, I'd imagine.
But that is also why I kind of wanted to talk about college sports today is why is that our path for a lot of sports? And the interesting thing about that, as you mentioned, Jared, is especially if you look at soccer or football, as they say, in other countries around the world, it's all academies and clubs. But I think the difference with like especially the example of soccer is soccer as a club for the most part, just until the last maybe 20, 30 years, a lot of the soccer clubs, they're tied to a location. You have Bayern Munich, you have Barcelona, you have Real Madrid, you have Atletico Madrid. You have all these teams that have a place, right? Whereas technically speaking, sports franchises in the U.S., they can move wherever they want. So whether or not they decide to stay in a place comes down to, is it profitable? And maybe if they have like a tradition. Like I can't picture the Red Wings really moving out of Detroit. Right? Because they've been there for so long since the NHL started.
They're not married to a city. So like the St. Louis Rams, well first the LA Rams, then the St. Louis Rams, then back to the LA Rams.
Exactly.
The San Diego Chargers are now the LA Chargers. It's all just what city makes us the most money kind of thing.
So I think that's another big cultural difference.
What does that have to do with college though?
Well, so that's why I would argue that's why some college sports, I think college football, I don't know overall viewership, but I would be willing to bet more people watch, more average quote unquote people are into college football than they are pro football.
Interesting.
I would argue that. I mean, just look at college tailgates. Look at college football versus
I'd say
pro
maybe
football.
maybe definitely live. There's because most college stadiums are bigger than professional well, not bigger, but have more capacity.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious about viewership. I don't know about the viewership part of it.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, just think about this. All of the people who, not all, but many of the people who went to that college, they probably support or occasionally watch some college sports, or if it's just on or there's a tailgate, or if it's college sports in the U.S. are very social.
So are you saying that the reason that you have to go, you tend to have to go to college for football and basketball is because those are the ones that make the most money?
And in the U.S., that is the best that we have.
That sounds very exploitative. To be like, well, these are the ones that we decide are the ones you have to go to college to play professional, only because these are the ones that are really making the most money. Once again, because for baseball, hockey, golf, these are just random ones I can think of. What's another other sports like those? You don't. There's no college requirement there,
right? I was talking more so about just the overall viewership and popularity,
which is money.
Well, I guess you're right.
I mean,
you are right.
Football and basketball is like the main marketing source for most major colleges in the U.S.
Right.
One of those two.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the same time, I agree with you, I guess, that I would argue, I think in the case of football, the reason why they make you go to college, which I guess maybe isn't fair, is I think the physicality aspect. I think if you look at most 18-year-old dudes and you look at most dudes in the NFL, I think they need, I would argue that probably an 18-year-old player.
Yeah, but there could be like some sort of in-between league, Like maybe that's how like the XFL or something became bigger, because that could be like a development league or something.
Right.
I'm just making shit up.
But see, that's the other weird thing about the U.S. is because we have high school and college sports, we don't have the developed infrastructure for a lot of these clubs, G leagues. Because if you look at like in Europe, they have, especially with soccer, they have 80 bajillion different leagues. Sure. They have your village town league, and then you have the league up and the league up.
This is how it's been forever, and there's no interest in changing it.
Right. Right. Whereas in the U.S., it's been associated. We've associated sports with schools. With high school. I think some of that as well is just due to. I think there's something about extracurricular activities, and I think for parents, I think there's a level of convenience. Right. Your kid just goes straight from class to the. For me, I played high school tennis, so I went to class. And then I walked, 2 minutes out to the tennis courts, and I had my tennis practice, and then I went home, And so I think there's some level of, it's not like my parents needed to come pick me up somewhere and then take me somewhere extra. It's right after school, So I think there's some level of convenience. I also think there's a level of community that you do see in the U.S. and in Europe with like local like soccer clubs or in the Czech Republic for sure with local hockey clubs. But once again, the schools are local. The clubs in Europe are local, whereas a lot of these professional sports teams, they're not, like we talked about, they're not married to a specific location. They can go where they please in the U.S. I mean, in Europe, some, like RB Leipzig, in theory, they could probably go somewhere else if they really wanted to. Obviously, they couldn't call themselves RB Leipzig anymore. Right, but you get what I'm saying. It's a Red Bull.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I think the crazy thing about college sports, Jared, is I think there is a level of, I think that's one of the reasons why we do have some of the best like sports trainers, sports medicine, because we have these very robust different degrees and tracks where a lot of these students can get such great hands-on experience while they're studying. Whereas, if you're in Europe, I don't know how that works. I wonder, do they have internships with sports clubs? They probably do, I would imagine. I don't know, though.
I think probably a lot of it is money, because that probably has a lot to do with it. But I think in the soccer situation, like if you're like they probably like for example, like how old was Messi when he started with Barcelona? Wasn't he like 13 or something?
Younger
like
than that, I think. Yeah.
They probably, you know, all that time when they were sort of training and programming this child.
right.
They probably you'll be with us forever. They probably, you know, had so much invested into him. Who probably, I imagine his family didn't have a lot of money. I imagine Barcelona invested a lot of money into him though, and so like that's how he got access to probably the best medical care,
right,
at a younger age,
right. Yeah, whereas I guess in the States you don't have that necessarily because, you know, if you go to a public school, you're not going to have access to some of the best.
You have to pay them, and that's how they end up making pretty good money at it, like a college, as if you're like the trainer or whatever, because it's a competitive role.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think what is interesting is that a lot of the sports infrastructure and sports education and all of that in the U.S., it's tied to universities, whereas in other places it's not, and it is really fascinating.
I think that's the big. I think in general education, like as if we're talking about Europe, for example, where we're talking about the sport, in general, education and profit are not tied fundamentally in these people's heads.
Right.
So like the idea of using it, like in college, sport is specifically used as a tool to fund the rest of the school. Right. But that's I don't think fundamentally that's ever been a thought process of what school is for in a lot of other places.
Well, I think
so the idea of being like we have to couple these, it's like why does the school have to make money from sport?
Right.
We have sport club and school of money.
Right.
Why do we have to?
Exactly. Well, that boils down to the government's role and willingness to help fund education.
I think it's just our super capitalist mentality also sets it up where it's like, these colleges, fundraising is the main way in general. That colleges
and donations from, wealthy alumni
and it's as someone that knows marketing a little bit, like this is all just branding. This is all how these colleges use their sports to build their brand,
their reputation,
and how much they're known.
But at the same time, I will say this as someone who works in academia. I know I have a lot of colleagues that think one way or another for college sports.
I was going to ask you about that,
but I'm kind of in the middle.
Because you're a fan. Also.
Well, as I was going to say, as a viewer myself, and I'm aware of that. As a viewer myself, I love watching MSU basketball. I'll watch MSU football. This season's been a rough one, to say the least. And ironically, Jared, the one year I got season tickets was the year they went like 3-9. So I think I watched them win like one game.
Do you mind me asking how much season tickets cost?
I think back then it was about it was $150 or $200.
That's not dollars. That's not bad at all.
No, it was Czech crowns.
I mean, that's not bad
rupees.
At all.
It was 200 rupees.
I thought it would be like $1,000.
No.
But like 500.
But I think home games.
There's like 4 or 5 home games.
5 or they play. I think 9 games.
That's still pretty
9
good.
Games in the season. Yeah,
but it's in the student section. Right.
Well, which if that's the environment or atmosphere you want, it's great. If it's not, then you're going to pay a lot more for season tickets.
But the thing, at least I've only been to U of M student section, and at least the thing about that one is you can kind of control how much you want of it just by how far back you go.
Yeah.
Because
same with MSU.
They're usually all like packed in up front, and so it's like, if I just go up like 6 rows back, it's actually pretty empty back here.
Yeah, and you can relax a little bit. Maybe even sit down, God forbid.
You won't be able to see anything.
Right.
But yeah.
Rest your legs for a little bit, from jumping around.
I want to ask you about that. What is the professor and sort of academia side of colleges feeling and sort of stereotypes of
I think there's some resentment. I think there's some resentment there just because of look at all the money and all that stuff and the way it's
I'm
talked
sure
about.
It's the easy comeback for the sports people is we bring in all the money.
Right. So there's some resentment, I would say, on some levels. I think other levels, as you mentioned, some people find it very exploitative to the athletes. But at the same time, the cream of the crop, they're getting everything taken care of. You know, I mean, they get
but
room and board, they get food.
They get paid under the table.
Well, some of them do, yeah.
A lot of the top players get paid under the table, which makes the whole system even more stupid, where it's like, okay, so even the colleges, I imagine most top colleges are at least paying a couple students.
You know what I don't understand, though?
Providing them with a lot of stuff.
Right. Well, you know what I really don't understand, Jared, is how is it possible? So, for example, say you're a Michigan State basketball player, right? And then Tom Izzo, the basketball coach, approaches you and says, you know what, we're doing a summer camp for kids, and you know, you're one of our top players, and you're a good guy. We would like you to come, you know, help us out with camp. I think, why can't athletes, if they're doing something that a quote unquote normal person would do to get paid, why can't they also get paid for that?
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, I taught German summer camps while I was still a graduate student studying German, and I got paid, and it was no problem. Technically, I was a professional German teacher. You know,
because they do bring in a lot of money, and there's no benefit to the college to pay them.
Right.
I mean, what's the benefit? I mean, there is a benefit, I guess, as far as recruiting, but it's all under the table. But there's no benefit for there to be a payment system, because then that's probably cost more than under the table payments that they do now. So it's like there's no benefit to it, and so it's like, why would we? I don't. And so they just always have been able to use the lie of we're giving you an education, which they do, and obviously. The football players or basketball players or whatever athlete it is that's the top athlete at your school has the right or has the ability to actually take advantage of that full scholarship to their fullest. And, you know, some do, but most are so focused on just like the professional aspect and using it as a development program for professional that like they don't really, school is not even in their thought process. It's like, I guess I got to go to class occasionally.
Right.
But like, I'm here to become a professional whatever athlete. And so like it is just sort of like this, and I feel like that's probably I don't know, it's just like this fake sort of facade. I guess you don't have to say fake facade, that's it's this facade of giving someone an education, which they do, but it looks like, yeah, but that's not why
the main purpose you are there is for sports,
right?
If you're a college athlete, yeah, unless you aren't going to become a professional, you know. If you're doing it for the love of the game, which I can also respect, you know.
Sure.
But I mean,
there are definitely people in there that are playing that can probably recognize early on that I'm probably not going to make it in professional, but that can still play college.
But once again, and I don't know all the NCAA, which is the National Collegiate Athletic Association. I don't know all their rules and stipulations. But like, for example, say you're one of those players that comes off the bench. You're not a starter. You don't have a full scholarship. Why can't you? And maybe they can. I don't know. Maybe it's only full scholarship athletes. Like I said, I don't know all the rules and stipulations. But we're just pontificating here. That's one of my new favorite words here, Jared. But my whole point here is that, you know, if you are doing something in the field where you want to work or carve out a career for yourself, why shouldn't you be able to do that, gain work experience, and get paid for it? You know, like if you, for example, if you want to offer, if you want to become a basketball coach. I don't know why maybe because it's basketball season and that's why I'm thinking about basketball, but you know, you want to become a basketball coach and you're a bench warmer on a basketball team, right? Well, but maybe you still do have a scholarship. Why shouldn't you be able to, you know, do some coaching on the side, or you know what I mean, and make some money from it?
I mean, you asked me this question. I don't know the answer.
Me either.
But I think we can add some. I can add some explanation to why.
Okay.
Do you want to hear some of the highest paid state employees in the United States?
Of course, and they're all probably sports related, right?
These are all state. So these employees are paid by the state that they're employed within. So this is not a company. This is the tax money essentially. Dabo Sweeney is paid by South Carolina $9.3 million a year. And he's one of the two highest paid employees. And then also John Calipari. He's the coach of Kentucky. He's also paid Kentucky basketball team. He is also paid $9.3 million by the state of Kentucky.
Must be nice.
And these are the highest paid. So forget the governor. Forget I don't know.
President of the university.
Forget the president of the university. Good point.
Yep.
Nick Saban with his game show suit on is paid by the state of Alabama $8.9 million a year.
Oh, Jimmy, good old Jimmy Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh,
U of M football coach,
and Jimbo Fisher. Jim Harbaugh is the U of M football coach. Jimbo Fisher is the Texas A&M football coach.
$7.3 million.
$7.5 million.
Oh, 7.5. Dang. Sorry,
listen, if you're going to read over my shoulder, at least get it right.
Right. You're true. You're right, Jared. That's so crazy. And that's per year, right? This is per season?
Yeah, this is the salary. Yeah. This is interesting. So this is for Jimbo Fisher. After leading Florida State University to the championship in 2013, Jimbo Fisher was snapped up by Texas A&M in 2017 with a whopping 10-year, $75 million deal.
That's crazy.
So he had he knew he had essentially $75 million coming for the next 10 years, and that's where the obviously 7.5 comes from.
That's so
Fisher's
wild.
base salary is $500,000, but he earns a supplemental income of $7 million and reportedly has access to luxury vehicles and a full country club membership.
Oh, of course.
So he doesn't even have to buy his own luxury vehicles, or he doesn't have to pay for a membership to a fancy.
Oh man.
Well, of course, because someone like this guy in a state like in his area in Texas is a celebrity.
Oh yeah.
So like it's to have him as a member at your country club is probably like a marketing aspect.
You're gonna pay him to come to your country club. Right.
Exactly. So like take one of our luxury cars and go show off at a.
But see, once again though, Jared.
club.
I want to unpack something you just said there. In Texas, this guy's a celebrity, which I think also this goes towards the argument for college sports, is that because it's more localized, I think it's also more, there's just something about it. Like if this dude, I watch college football occasionally, if this dude were to stroll by me, I wouldn't even recognize him. I wouldn't even know, right?
You would recognize Jim Harbaugh.
Well, yeah, because I live in Michigan. That's
the
my
local
point.
Celebrity.
Exactly.
I see.
So it's also, I think, part of this local culture a little bit to some degree.
Yes.
Yeah. Which you
like
would,
they're the highest level of local celebrity almost.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than like a famous
Kid
movie.
Rock.
Right. Although I would say Eminem is probably more famous than Jim Harbaugh.
Eminem probably is, and he has a super strong.
He's an anomaly. I would say.
I would agree with you because who's the biggest in Michigan? Like who's the biggest celebrity you could think of from Alabama?
I couldn't tell you
exactly, and I would probably say what's that football coach's name again from Alabama?
The funny thing is I think out of all the people we've named. I think Nick Saban is probably the most famous college football coach.
Pretty famous.
He is too, but I think Saban's been around longer. Hasn't he?
Jim Harbaugh used to be. I feel like he used to be more famous when
now
he
he's
used
just
to
kind
be
of a joke. But I'm too biased.
When he used to be closer connected to like the NFL,
right.
but it's like now he can't really use that anymore because he's really not been doing great.
Right. No.
I have no idea who Jimbo Fisher is, but this guy makes $7.5 million a year.
Yeah,
I've never heard of Kirby Smart. He's the football coach for Georgia.
Okay.
He makes
once again, if this dude walked by me, I wouldn't even be on my radar.
Honestly. Jim Harbaugh, I might give a second look, but I wouldn't be confident. I wouldn't be like, that's Jim Harbaugh. I'd be like, I feel like I know who that guy is.
Right.
Jeff Brom, the football coach for Indiana, he makes $6.6 million.
He's at Purdue, but yeah.
But it says, he's paid by the state. I saw that. I was like, why did they have him with the Purdue? That's why.
Yep.
So yeah, just all football coaches making millions
Penn
of dollars.
State football coach, keep going. I want to see if any of these are non-football, but I think they're all football.
They're all coaches.
Yep, all football coaches. Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but how do you feel about and once again, you come from the academia side.
Mm-hmm.
There must be some resentment there for just the idea that these people are celebrities. So I wonder.
I don't have resentment for them, Jared, because for a few reasons. Number one, when people argue that these guys shouldn't be paid this much money, I think, yes, they do get paid a crazy, absorbent amount of money, but...
Because it's essentially how much they get paid off of how much they bring into the school.
Exactly. I really do believe that these coaches
professors are paid, how much they bring into the school? Is that how Cornel West... Is Cornel West paid... He's the only... Oh my gosh, he's a black professor at Harvard.
Okay.
And he's got a beard. You've probably seen him before.
Does he have gray dreadlocks?
No.
Okay,
no,
that's a different professor.
I love that you just assume that.
Well, that's a different professor.
I'm just kidding.
You're going to get us canceled here, Jared.
It's Cornel West, not Wes. I thought it was Wes. This guy. You've never seen this guy before?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
he's a famous professor at Harvard.
Okay.
He's super famous.
Right.
You've never heard of him, but he's super.
Well, was he on the Joe Rogan podcast?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. Is that how you heard of him?
No, that's not how I heard of him.
Okay. Right.
I've known about him before that. But I wonder how much he's getting paid by Harvard, because he is a celebrity, and he's not the only celebrity professor, but he is a celebrity / professor. So I wonder how much he gets paid by his, or even doesn't freaking that science guy, the black. I only know black professors clearly. Who's the black science guy with the voice?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, he was on Joe Rogan too. Is that how you know all your celebrities? I believe he works for some university or a museum or something.
Does he work for the Smithsonian?
I don't know. Anyway,
remember.
Well, forget him then. Is Cornel West or other famous celebrity professors paid for how much action they bring to the university?
Well, I think to some degree, yes.
They're like, we're going to pay you. I guess so, because it's a competitive role.
Funding.
Competitive roles,
research funding, grant money. There are definitely other ways that professors bring in value. The difference is you just don't see it, because you don't have a sporting event where professors
it's
are.
so funny. It's kind of like Formula One. Part of what helps bring in a driver to a team is obviously how good they are, but it's also how much sponsorship money do they bring in themselves.
Yeah.
So, what kind of deals do they have that we can exploit for our team?
Sure.
And what do they bring into us a little bit too? It's kind of the same thing with a teacher or like a coach.
Right. Well, and the difference with a coach and a teacher is, like I said, the coach, their performance is viewed by millions of people every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever. Whereas, the value a teacher brings is, it's harder to see unless you really know what happens behind the scenes.
But it's like the kind of graduate you're putting out, or they have obviously
the publications, the research,
publications, and I'm sure they have stats about the level of person that graduates, how many people make this much money, or whatever stats they use to prove that they have good graduates. I don't remember what they are. But yeah, it's not as clear as winning a championship at the end of a year that is viewed by tens of millions of, if not hundreds of millions of people around the world.
Exactly.
But that's a very clear result of and a lot quicker of a result.
Well, and here's the other thing is that
the students get nothing. When they get the glory, and then it's like, all right, go back to work.
Yeah, but
go back to school.
But do they really get nothing? I mean, is there not something that they're getting from that experience? Is there not something that they're getting from that mentorship from that coach? I mean, I would argue.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that, because the coach is getting a bonus of $5 million for that win, and you're like, oh, but the student gets the beauty of a loving relationship between man and it builds character. That is BS, I think.
But you're looking at it
because the player plays literally an active role in the coach's success.
Right.
But the player reaps no benefit other than the feeling of a job well done and a pat on the back by a millionaire.
Right. Well,
and you get to eat McDonald's with the president.
Oh, that's why do we do anything? I mean, that's the reason. The thing here is, Jared, is that I do think college athletes, I mean, I think as the amount of money and value they do bring in wouldn't hurt to give them a cut of that pie, However,
how could they not even be considered as like a student?
They're like a student ambassador, basically.
No, but what's when there's when you work at the gym or the library or something, or
student worker.
A student worker. Yeah. They're at least a student worker.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think probably the way they have to fund it through taxes and everything else.
Another thing is, I believe probably is it Title IX? They'd probably have to find a way to pay everyone also.
Oh, maybe.
you couldn't just pay. Like they couldn't. I don't think they probably wouldn't be aware.
You're right because all grad students get paid the same. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're working in a neuroscience lab that's bringing the university in millions of dollars of grant money.
So you can't give like a football player like $50,000 a year,
and then your common grad students have $20,000. Yeah,
exactly.
Right. So you're right though. But that
or like even sports that don't get the publicity of the other sports, like the volleyball team. It's like we have to pay them the same that we pay the football players.
But the way I look at it, Jared, I agree with you that having some type of student work or something. The other option, too, though, is why not allow players to use their image and their likeness to make money? Yeah. Coaches can do it, I'm pretty sure.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you feel about, and I'm sure this has happened more than just this time, but how do you feel about the Ohio State players a couple years ago that got into big doo-doo for selling their various pieces of their memorabilia or jerseys and trophies and stuff?
I don't think it's a big deal.
I don't either.
I don't think it's a big deal. Yep, exactly. I mean, if they
own it, it's their shit.
Yep, and they work their asses off to become those high level.
They could sell their PlayStation on eBay.
Right.
Why can't I sell my shirt that just happens to have my name on it?
Exactly.
And so it's not even the fact that they don't. Like, that's why I really think there is something kind of dubious and gross about college sports, because it's not even the fact that they don't pay them, but they actively stop them from allowing them to even make money off of themselves.
Right. But that comes down to, I think, the NCAA. See, I think you're looking. I'm looking at college sports as a whole.
Colleges have influences on the NCAA. I mean, there's some sort of group that of different people from different colleges that get together. We're the college football group that goes and talks to the NCAA association, and these are the rules that we would like to enact. And I'm sure the NCAA would hear them out. I'd imagine.
Yeah. I would.
It's a process of some sort.
I would think. Yeah. Yeah,
and there's no interest from the colleges to initiate this process.
Right. Yeah. It's tough, and it is really strange that we are really the only major country in the world that has sports tied up with education.
What's like a and maybe not Cornell West level, but what's like a top professor salary? If you were to think in your head, all right, once I hit tenure. And I know, and I'm working at like a major university, whether that be like a major state school or some good private school or whatever. U of M, let's say
6 figures,
low 6 figures.
I'd say. Well, it depends. It really depends on the department. It depends on the department. It depends on your role. So, for example, if you're just a professor,
so not every just. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Not every just tenured professor makes the same amount of money,
right? And so for example, I know if you are. I believe if you're a tenured professor, I mean, you can look. Most universities, you can look up the salaries.
I guess because they're
it's
government.
Public. Yeah, it's public information. If I remember correctly, my advisor, who was the department chair at one point, he was pulling in, I think, about $140,000. Now that was just from the university. Now a lot of academics who are more accomplished, they're also making some money, not very much, but some money off of publications. If they are giving any guest lectures places, they can get money for that. So a full $150,000 looks like
that's average. So full University of Michigan professors average $150,000, and I imagine the longer you're there, obviously
it goes up.
Yeah.
And if you take more administrative roles, if you become a dean or a provost,
obviously it also matters like what school you're coming from, how much you got paid. Obviously there's a whole bunch of factors like
the best advice I would give someone who, if your goal is really to teach at like a U of M or like to teach at one of these really big research institutions is to actually get your graduate degree at a similar institution, because it's really hard to make the jump if you studied at a smaller school to that bigger school for a job. So you have to really have some special skills or something. Because
all right, we're not giving advice on how to get hired as a professor.
That's fair.
So it's interesting too, because even at Harvard, where I wonder who would be obviously besides for like the headmaster. Well, no, who would be the top earning person at Harvard?
That's not the football coach.
Well, would it be the football coach who gives a shit about the Harvard football team?
Google it for me. I'm really curious. Just Google how much does a Harvard football coach
Well,
make?
because what I was going to say is the average full tenured salary at Harvard is $198,000.
Okay.
But now I'm wondering, just in general, what would be the highest earner at Harvard? But they don't have to say it's a private university. Maybe they still do say.
Oh, maybe.
Highest.
I bet you it's still the football coach. Maybe not. It is Harvard. It's hard to say.
The football coach,
dude. I mean,
highest paid person at Harvard is Linda M. Applegate.
So clearly not.
The university. Okay. Do you know Linda M. Applegate?
Do you know any female college football coaches? I don't.
The university's 3 highest compensated faculty members all teach at Harvard Business School.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
Which actually that kind of makes sense.
Okay,
because they're probably also coming from legit companies too, I imagine.
1.7 mil, is that what it said?
That is what it says.
Ooh,
excuse me. Linda M. Applegate earned 1.5 mil, 1.49 million. You did see 1.7 somewhere. I don't know where you saw that though. The business school is former university president Drew G. Faust made just over 1.7 in 2017.
So the president.
But now maybe they have a new president that's newer, so they're making less.
But see, I think Harvard, you would argue that Harvard is known as an institution where they put education first. Like you said, like who gives a crap about Harvard's football coach? Because no one goes to Harvard to play football.
Exactly. And their football team is not their main marketing. Is not a major marketing aspect for them. I'd imagine.
No,
I don't know any. Yeah,
definitely
but
not.
You say that now, but you were fairly confident that it would be their football coach still.
I thought so.
If anything, wouldn't it be like their I don't know, cricket coach or
right?
I don't know, what are
chess coach probably.
Exactly. They're what are they? They're like a debate team coach or something.
Right. Exactly.
The president. I don't know. So it is. So but that's not. But yeah, but it's they go off of their education. That's their thing, and I guess business certainly makes sense because it's like the whole point is making money,
right?
And these people are also probably they're like we want to get like someone that just retired from Apple or something. We have an executive from Microsoft as a professor here teaching, and that's probably super prestigious. But they are used to making $6 million, and can't give them that, but we'll give them still $2 million or whatever. Yeah,
you're right though. I mean, the money issue with college sports is definitely quite a hot topic.
Sure,
without a doubt.
Sure, but that's the major part of it. There's also obviously the fandom of it, which I find very interesting to see. Something about being fans of essentially children is kind of weird to that level, to the level that we see here in the United States when it comes to tailgating.
First of all, let me stop you there. They're definitely young adults. I would say at 18 years.
Sure,
yes,
they're not
you're
children.
No. But yeah, it is a little strange. But I think there's also something about
the culture behind it.
Well, and also, I mean, think about it. If you attended the school, you kind of have a stake in it, whether you like it or not, because you're affiliated, or if you decide to still affiliate yourself with that university.
I remember last time I went to a football game was U of M a couple of years ago, and I actually took pictures. They were on our Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast, and some of the pictures involved
a keg stand,
someone throwing up outside in the front lawn. Like a jumbo-sized beer pong game in someone's front lawn. Shot straight from a fifth of some cheap liquor. And I'm like, so football. I'd also say sports culture is drinking culture. Like it's a full part of drinking culture
and party culture.
As we've talked about before, it's also like it's an excuse to start drinking literally at first thing in the morning, 6 in the morning. These are the same people you will never see in class at 9 o'clock.
Nope.
Yet on a Saturday, they're up
6 a.m. getting ready
at 5 to 6 a.m. and hammered by 7.
Slamming beers. Yeah, that's true.
But yet they will not be at class at 9 o'clock. And it's just like, I don't know how. I mean, I guess I understand how, but it's just such an interesting that's what the culture is. And then it's just like the shit show of children or excuse me, young adults screaming at a football game. I mean, it is a fun vibe. I'll say that. Especially if you go when the weather's nice. It's hit or miss. Football season in Michigan, obviously, it could be gorgeous, or it could be terrible, or anywhere in between. But it is a fun environment. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's electric, and honestly, it kind of feels more fun than like a professional game. One, because there's more people and you can feel it, and I think in a weird way, like the stakes are kind of lower.
Actually, I would argue
I meant
the
because
opposite.
it's cheaper.
I
meant for going
fans.
in.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a huge benefit. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, I remember I went to a few MSU basketball games. I got tickets for they were playing more no-name schools, but still I got some tickets, and they weren't in a super great spot, but I got tickets for like $5, $10, $15 occasionally. Yeah. And this was when MSU was ranked like 1 or 2 in the nation. And so it was really cool to be able to go be a part of something for so cheap.
They have a drinking culture around sports in Europe, like soccer, but that's professional.
Right.
Now, obviously, that's only professional. There is nothing else. But I'm trying to think. That's not really a uniquely American thing. It just happens that we have the college.
Sports are a social thing, yeah.
We just
had that
sports.
Place where we can congregate.
It is unique in our situation where, as we've said recently, you can't. There's this idea. The binge drinking is big in the sense that you got to get it all in to last you a 3-hour football game before you go in, because there's no it's a purely dry experience.
Exactly.
And so it is like, all right, we need to start now, and so this is going to keep me drunk for a solid 4 hours.
And that's rough if you didn't plan it right, and
which no one ever does.
Right.
Once again, these are children, young adults. No one ever plans it right. Either someone's like, oh man, I'm sobering up and it's getting boring, or I'm hungover by noon.
Yep.
Or someone's passed out throwing up in their yard before the football game even starts at 7 in the morning, or in the stands.
Yep.
Have you seen that before? Someone throw up in the stands?
I've seen people asleep in the stands while everyone else is jumping and cheering behind them. It's crazy.
Just imagine. I wonder, like being a security guard for a college game almost seems a little more nerve-wracking than a professional game. Yeah. Because I feel like there's a lot more
you see more craziness,
accountability also for these young adults that you see, clearly just drunkenly passed out.
Right.
And still, actually something I do enjoy about the college sport environment, the sneaking in of booze. I didn't go to a lot of college sports, so I didn't really experience a lot of this. But I have been to some college sports, and I have witnessed it. So one time, this has all happened when I was past college age, not way past. But I mean, I'm not way past now. But we snuck in a couple of the little small shot things of Fireball. Mm-hmm. That was fun. And the one time I went to a football game in the Bayou Classic.
How do you sneak them in?
I don't remember.
Or is it a secret?
I don't even remember.
If I had $1, Jared, for every time I saw someone with some type of flask at an MSU game, I'd have a lot of dollars.
I would say probably a good spot, especially for some of those single shot. I mean, it's not a single shot; it's like a double shot thing. Mm-hmm. You could stick them in your sock, especially if it's cold outside. If you have a large-chested friend, the Brazier I heard is a good place.
Okay. That's funny.
I went to the Bayou Classic, which is a college football game at a professional state in New Orleans at the Mercedes-Benz.
Is that LSU against somebody?
It is Grambling versus Southern University.
Oh, okay.
What's the main attraction really is the halftime show. The crazy marching bands and all the performances.
We didn't even talk about that as well.
Yeah, we can. But I saw a guy sneak in a half-gallon of Belvedere. So Belvedere, honestly,
is that
it might
cheap liquor?
No, Belvedere is almost like a Grey Goose-esque.
Okay.
Similar shaped bottle.
Okay.
And so, Grey Goose, like a half gallon of Grey Goose is kind of long and skinny.
Yeah.
Similar shape, it would be a Belvedere bottle.
How did this guy...
He pulled it out of his leg.
How is that even possible?
And I'm like, how did you have... And he walked... I saw him walk in. He looked like he was walking normally. And I was like, why is this guy sticking his hand in his pants? And he just pulling out
Oh my God, that's
a half gallon of Belvedere, and he had cups, and he was obviously with his friends, and but this guy was also not to be fair, he wasn't an adult. So he was like then like pouring drinks for people. He wasn't like then doing like some Instagram video where he like chugged the whole bottle down.
That's crazy.
And passing out in front of everyone. But it was very impressive to see. I'm like, I wouldn't have been mad either way, but I'm like, I'm not even mad. That's impressive.
Right.
So yeah. The halftime show is a big deal. It's an even bigger deal at schools like Grambling and Southern, like the Bayou Classic, because those football teams aren't even that great. But in general, that too is sort of a marketing aspect, isn't it? Could you say that, the halftime show? Because it is like I feel like I don't have any sort of interest for a lot of halftime shows.
Depends on the marching band.
I struggle to see sometimes the design they try to make in the middle. I'm like, I can't really see what that even is supposed to be. Maybe that's just because I'm used to having those what do you call it? Those floor side seats.
Courtside
seats,
if you're talking about basketball.
Yeah, which is not true. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of schools, it's pretty underwhelming until you go to like a school like Grambling or like Southern, which I will say they are black schools, but they also, it's not just that, it's that those schools, their football teams aren't even that big of a deal. The halftime show is arguably more impressive than the actual sport.
Right.
What you say, it does depend. So can you think of some marching bands that stick out to you?
Honestly, I think one of the best ones is, believe it or not, and it hurts me to say this as a Michigander, but Ohio State.
Oh, really?
I think OSU has one of the best marching bands.
Okay.
They're fantastic. MSU is also really good as well. IU, Indiana University, I would say they also have a really solid marching band.
Do they ever televise marching band halftime shows?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. I don't think so. That's usually when they have the sports analysis guys.
Well, because I imagine they're making a lot more money off. Yeah,
of Jim. Today the Wolverines were struggling with
just the actual commercials where they're making millions of dollars per minute.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah. But it is a major part of it. But that goes back to the school spirit. It's all part of that, like,
and culture.
Essentially, in my mind, the halftime show is like an extension of like the competition, and it's like because there is sort of like a competition on whose halftime show is better.
Sure.
And then it's like it just go along to that, like, our school is better than yours kind of ethos.
Right. Which is kind of funny.
Yeah,
it's a lot of chest beating and a lot of.
I'm because you know why I like some of the black schools that I mentioned is because I think in some of these schools the drum major has a much more center role.
Oh,
and there's a lot more like they do the thing where they do they do this in all schools where they go backwards. Where the drum major, the person that holds the cane and walks around.
Oh, maybe. Do
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And they do the thing where they go backwards and their hat touches the ground.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. I know what you're talking about.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if that is like is that a black thing? That's a weird thing to say because I feel like I've seen that a lot. Have you seen Drumline?
Yeah, with Nick Cannon.
Okay,
of course.
Okay, I was just curious. I wasn't.
But yeah, it's interesting though. The thing that I do like about college sports and school sports is a lot of the other things built around it. I think are good because like just think about all the people.
Ohio State.
Yep, exactly. Like think about all the people who participate in other stuff kind of around sports. So what I mean by that is marching band, sports medicine, sports management, and business.
Oh, yeah,
there's just so many good benefits that I think a lot of universities, can take advantage of if they, I think, are using their sports program in a good way. Because I think that's one of the great things is that if you do want to make the argument that it's educational, then put your money where your mouth is and actually utilize the sports programs you have to help your students learn.
Like, do they utilize like the students that are in some form of sports medicine? Do they are like, all right, part of the people out here that are going to help with your massages or help sort of mold your meal plan? or your your workout
or,
regimen,
or your recovery therapy. Like,
sure.
I wonder how
just
much
the different
have we
aspects
learned.
of your that has to be that would be interesting if the NCAA had a rule and like a certain percentage of your sort of whatever how they do it had to be done by students. So it's like you have to have some level of students involved in all. You know, if you have a major for it or some sort of program for it,
or a certification,
you have to have some sort. You have to have like students involved in it somehow, actively involved, like working in it.
Well, and once again, that all goes back to, in my opinion, the entire point of college, Jared. And I think a lot of people lose sight of this,
teach
which
the
is
kids
why
to run the team.
Well,
the teams.
Yeah. I mean, you have student managers. I know the MSU basketball team, for example, they have a couple different student managers who do stuff.
The managers are like the people that handle all the equipment and stuff and like spray water into people's mouths and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the water boys specifically, but yeah.
I don't want to insult any managers, by the way. I'm sorry.
Exactly, right. But you know, I think a lot of the behind the scenes that goes on with sports. I mean, look at you can also argue like statistics. You know, especially you know, I mean, there's a lot of different skills that
these are all just ways also, to not pay people as much, and then just for schools to hold on to more of the money. But
I guess, but at the same time,
they could pay them properly, but they don't.
Well, but they might.
Sure.
They might. I know graduate coaching assistants.
So they would pay them, but still not pay the student or the players.
Well, but
see, interesting.
But right. Well, see, once again, I think at least with the graduate student assistants. See, the thing is with the graduate student assistant, I think there's also some level of the fact that they're actually pursuing a graduate degree and not a bachelor's, which then that opens up the discussion. Does it matter and should it matter? And I don't really think it should. I think if you're a student and you're working,
to make money, or what level are you allowed to make money?
Right. But I can tell you, I mean, the money I made as a teaching assistant at Albion versus at MSU. Well, one, I was teaching a lot more hours at MSU, so that's also why.
Sure.
But I made significantly more money at MSU. But I think some of that also comes from that pay bump from having a bachelor's under your belt. I mean, if you look at it in any other field.
Sure, well, they could easily tier it. We'll be like, well, these are graduate students, which means they technically have more, means they have more expertise than you and more experience than you. So obviously that means they get paid more than someone that's. Yeah, they could do something like that,
and I'm
sure
might.
they do. But still, I don't. I don't think the system is working as it should, because I don't know. I still don't think the system is working as it should.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's hard to say, but I think college sports in the U.S. are definitely a very unique and interesting phenomenon. I do think it. One of the nice things is. I really do think that there's a lot of great benefits that we can learn from, whether that be medicine, finance, management. I mean, even like I said, math and statistics. There's so many different things that students can learn and gain from athletics as a whole at colleges and universities, which I'm genuinely curious. How do other universities and places do these kind of things? What does a sports program or what does a sports management program look like at an institution where they don't actually have a sports team? My assumption would be that they have some type of internship or partnership with professional organizations or something.
Sure.
But I guess, at the end of the day, Jared, what it boils down to really is, are you doing things internally, like with a college sports team, or if you want to do something related to sports, then do you do it externally with a professional organization? And I think there are good arguments for both of those. I would say, though, in the context of the U.S., I think a good way to get your foot in the door in sports would be to go that college route. For
some sports.
Well, right. Well, what I mean more so, Jared, by go the college route, I mean make coaching contacts, make player contacts. I guess in theory you don't have to go to college to do that, but I think
it's good to do that for the sports that are high earners for that college.
Right. Yeah.
But that's sort of the, or I guess if you're in a sport that requires some level of college, which is the ones that make the most money for some reason, weirdly.
Right. Yeah. Well, basketball, football. Yeah. Baseball back in the day.
You do not need college for baseball.
Right. Yeah.
But what school? How many schools are, especially top level schools, where baseball is making the most money?
Yeah. It's just not as popular
or hockey,
anymore,
for example.
Right. Right. It's true. Yeah. So you think it boils down to slavery?
I think race is involved in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Could be. Very well could be.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of your
Especially-
athletes in football and basketball are black.
Especially with that, because even in the professional sports, that shut up and play aspect and that sort of, in professional, it's like you're lucky that you get to make millions of dollars just to play basketball or whatever, like they say to LeBron James. But then in college, it's like you're lucky to get a free education. And it's like, it's sort of like this mentality of like, well, it's not our fault if you waste that opportunity. Like, you're the one that cared more about sports than, but it's like, well, that's, I don't know, but like, this is the only system that is set up here, and I do find it curious that it's around the sports that, yes, make the most money, but they do happen to be the most black heavy sports as well. I don't know, I'd find it hard to believe that that's a coincidence.
Yeah, it is. I had never put two and two together, but you're right.
Yeah. You just think in my head every time it probably goes back to slavery, and there's a good chance you're right. Right.
Well, I guess my question is, though, and once again, this is more so for these, it's more so, I guess, for the top tier athletes, is you're right. I guess the ones that are physically ready at 18 that could actually compete and not, be injured.
It's like, why does it have to be a requirement?
Right.
Obviously, it could be an option. I'm not saying it shouldn't be an option.
Yeah.
But they get essentially forced into, or why do you even have to? Maybe you, as I said,
who makes those rules? I'm assuming it's the sports leagues, like the professional.
It must be some sort of agreement.
It's got to be the NBA and the NFL, right?
It has to be some sort of agreement, I think, between the two of them.
Okay.
Between like the NCAA and the professional. Like, I'm sure they both have some sort of say in that decision to some level. Like, I'm sure there's some way where it's like, well, if you do this, then we can do this. But if you do this, that I imagine both probably, and I don't know all the answers, but I imagine both probably have some leverage and obviously skin in the game.
Right.
To obviously, I could see why it's a great breeding ground. It's a weird way to put it because these are people, but for professional recruiters to have like a easy way to sort of find people. But then obviously it makes sense for the colleges because it gives them at least 2 years where they could profit off of these stars.
Right.
So I could see how it could benefit both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
and obviously it benefits the college because they don't have to pay them,
right?
And they make millions of dollars off of them.
Yeah, and it improves their brand, their likeness, all that.
And when they win with these stars, people are like, oh, I want to go to that winning school,
right? Yeah, that's
like I have no idea. I imagine Alabama is a good school. I have no idea about their academics. That's basically all. Like, they seem like they must be at least an okay school. They win all the time.
Right. Yeah. Well, when
they're popular,
when you have sport and education combined and as a cultural thing, you get those thoughts.
I mean, especially at Alabama. The only time if I hear Alabama, I immediately think football team.
Sure, of course.
I never think about the state of Alabama, unless it's somehow related to the football team. I feel like Alabama never comes up really, unless it's football.
Right.
Like the entire state relies on.
Well, that's because they don't have
the football team.
That's because they don't have an Alabama man headline like Florida man. I betcha.
They don't have any professional teams at all either. But
you're right. Now that I think about it, I couldn't tell you any.
So I think that's part of it too. So like that even puts a lot more importance on the college team.
But see, maybe they don't want any professional teams because they're like, we would rather focus on our local university.
And we don't have to pay these people.
Right.
This makes us so much money for the state, and we don't have to pay these people. If we had a professional team, we'd have to pay these people millions.
I will say this though, I do think the fact that college athletics does bring in so much money for the universities as institutions, I do think that is a big benefit. I do think that is a really good thing.
Sure.
But you're right. I mean, I bet you they could probably afford to pay their athletes. Or
how quickly, by the way, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but when we're talking Dabo Swinney, Jim Harbaugh, Saban, these people making anywhere from $5 to $10 million, let's say.
Okay.
How quickly? And I'm asking you this. You might not know the answer. Do these salaries drop off? Like, let's say you get to like the head offensive coach, the head defensive coach, they're making, if we're talking about these, you know, these high $1 million coaches, coach teams,
right?
We're saying that, would we say that, like, all right, so that means that the head of the head of the offensive coach and the defensive coach, what they make like $1 million, 600, it drops off hard and fast, 500,000.
Oh yeah, yeah. From head coach to like your top offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator for football,
so
at least.
Then everything else is in the hundreds.
It'd be 6 figures still, but yeah, it's not in the millions.
Right. I mean, that's a
millions
huge.
Is 7 figures. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge drop. I mean, even to not be in the millions.
But at the same time,
and then I imagine once you go below that, it probably quickly gets into like like 80,000, 60,
right.
50
or less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so the interesting thing about that though, Jared, is that. You're right. It's a huge drop. I mean, from the even the head coach to the assistant coach. Like I'm thinking MSU basketball. I'm sure it's a huge disparity. At the same time, though, if you think about it, I mean, the head coach, they are the ones that, and I'm not justifying that they should get tons and tons of millions and millions, but if you think about just the amount of hours they work, the amount of they're the face of it. They have to do radio, exactly.
No, unless you're a real
radio,
nerd,
video, all sorts of.
No one's really talking about the like you're not gonna like the offensive. The offensive coach is not going to be in the mainstream news for like getting a DUI, but Nick Saban would be.
Right.
Like it's kind of like a CEO, you know?
It
Where
is.
It's like this person is like, yes, obviously you're the coach of a team, but it's also kind of like a political position.
Oh yeah, you're the representative.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Sports in the US, it's college sports, it's fascinating, isn't
but
it?
I compare it to a CEO. But I mean, the drop off is hard and fast for a lot of major giant companies, but not at. I don't think at a company. I don't think the drop off is as aggressive. Like maybe that first drop is, but I think the drops are a lot smaller. But there's more positions, so and there's more levels to at like a normal company.
Right.
But it's not like there's not a giant gap between like tens of millions, hundreds of thousands. Low tens of thousands.
Right.
There's in betweens in those at most companies, at least.
Yeah. Definitely.
So it's not even a good CEO situation. Well, it is for the CEO at least.
yeah, without a doubt. Well, Jared, I think we've covered at least what I was hoping to talk about today regarding college sports.
Yeah, I agree.
There's definitely some good and some bad. I would say some of the good, obviously, the university benefits from the money a lot of sports programs bring in. I would also say that there is a benefit to the students who are able to learn and work in sports-related fields.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the idea of free college might threaten sports?
That's a good question, actually. That's a really good question. I don't know, to be honest. What I could see happening is that if you offer college as like free for everybody, which I don't think is going to happen, by the way. But if you were to do that, then... Well, it's hard to. I think then it boils down to: is it required to go to college for your profession? And I wonder then if that were to happen. I would argue that I think a lot of these institutions are too big unless they close them down.
Well, then it also takes away the whole you get a free education thing that they say to athletes. It's like we all get free education.
Right. Everybody does. Yeah. I'm just busting my ass a lot harder than,
I just have essentially a full-time college career and a full-time football career.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I really don't know, but it's a good question. It's a good question. So
I mean, it makes sense that there's that colleges in general, even without that argument, there are a lot of other arguments for why colleges probably wouldn't have any interest in, even though they would get subsidized from the government and stuff, they probably still can pay a lot or charge a lot more just with their own tuitions.
Right. I think at the end of the day, it boils down to money.
Yeah,
for sure.
I also do find it a little weird that people are donating millions of their dollars of their own personal money to college football teams.
Yeah.
Like even like I know the CEO of Nike went to Oregon, and Oregon gets a lot of dope stuff
from Nike. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's just like it's so weird that this is where people choose to quote unquote donate their money to these already. I mean, I guess they're wealthy because of people like them, but like to these wealthy schools, even like a non-sport school like Harvard or Yale, like these super prestigious schools. It's
Would you
it's so
say
interesting like that's where people choose to donate millions of dollars.
Would you say this is kind of like the you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind
There's
of deal?
probably a lot of that. I mean,
would say.
There's
right?
definitely a lot of that, like if you're trying to get your kid into the school. Like, it doesn't hurt that.
Or if they're trying to recruit your kid into the school.
Sure.
Either or. I think both ways, you know.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
But but see, maybe that is another reason why college sports in Europe is not a thing, because a lot of places in Europe, at least, you know, you can go to school and it's not super expensive.
Right, it's like
so you don't
$200.
have that argument. But also the infrastructure is already better developed in Europe at the club level. Whereas it seems like in the U.S., they don't
have the requirements in Europe. Like they don't have the same sort of expectation. Like college is not like, we're giving you a free education. They're like, go to college if you want to get the job for college.
I think we
go play a sport if you want to play a sport.
I think we sadly have this really weird kind of standard here in the U.S., which is if you want to be somebody, you have to go to college, which I think is bogus and complete BS, to be honest with you.
Sure.
And this is someone that has a couple different degrees, too.
You can't have a future without college.
Right. And
I'm starting to feel that way about not having
an MBA,
a master's degree, and not even maybe. I mean, MBA, yes, that's probably what I'd get, but there are a few things I could get.
Right.
I'm starting to feel that way a little bit myself, or like I'm starting to feel like I'm limiting myself. I was actually thinking about that on the drive here. I'm like, I feel like I couldn't do grad school.
Should we revisit and do another grad school episode? We could.
Maybe.
We could. Maybe a 2021. Should you go to grad school update?
Yeah, because I'm starting to feel like I just, you know, at my company, I constantly get emails when, from just the company overall, like this person got hired for this job or this person got promoted to this job. And it's like, I always look to see, and I always see like they always seem to have some sort of master's degree.
Okay.
Or if not an MBA, they came from like the technological side.
Right.
So they have a master's in like engineering or something.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Because sometimes people do try to make that jump.
So would you go for a master's in engineering?
No. I'm saying sometimes people... mostly people make the jump from engineering to the business side.
I see.
And so they do, like a lot of people will have a master's in engineering, but usually you don't a lot of times see people go from business to engineering, but you hear a lot about like engineers kind of getting sick of it after a while, at least in the industries I've worked in, and trying to go over to the business side.
That makes sense, especially in the auto industry.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think there's a little more opportunity too in the business side. I don't know. At least that's what I've just seen where I've worked before.
Anyways, let us know what your thoughts are on college sports, especially the phenomenon in the U.S. I would agree that there are definitely some cultural aspects, obviously some very big monetary aspects, but hopefully also some educational ones as well. So let us know at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. You can slide into our DMs on Twitter, untranslatable1, the number one, where Jared posts some awesome tweets and some good retweets as well. And you can check us out on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast, for pics, clips, and all sorts of other good stuff. And please, 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know how we can make this podcast better for you. So, as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, dziękujemy, muchas gracias, shisha, and do svidania.
Like a strong out, and that was perfect timing. Oh man!
When you write the music, it helps you better with the timing, Jared. Let me tell you.
Oh, dude, I've been thinking about it, and I'm starting to think that I'm less concerned about this vaccine. I meant to bring it up before when we were talking about the vaccine. I'm starting to think, and I actually, in a couple months or whatever, we'll all have access to it, but I know the avenue where I'll have access to it, and I'm starting to think like I should just get the damn vaccine. And I've been thinking about the person I told you that would said like, haven't we all given in to the fact that we're gonna get the virus? I'm like, not me. Yet he's scared of the vaccine, saying that like I don't know if we should trust it, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't trust COVID either.
Right.
So why don't I I don't know. I feel like I'm being dumb a little bit. I'm like, just get the vaccine. You can get the vaccine. You know.
Not a terrible idea. I've thought about it too. I probably will.
I saw a funny Instagram video thing. Did you see the? There's like this older lady. She was probably in her 80s or 90s. She was in the news for getting the vaccine, and there's a picture of her getting the shot. And then there was this Instagram meme thing I follow. It was a cut to the scene from this horror movie where there's this old lady that's like, she's like haunted and possessed, and she's like climbing on the ceiling and like trying to murder people, and like
that's her.
And like say that, like right after she takes the vaccine, she's now possessed.
That's funny. Oh, scary stuff if that's the case. But I have a feeling with all the tests they've done, we're probably all right.
What if this is the next I Am Legend?
Could be. Are you Legend, Jared?
It's a good movie. A good movie.